Call to order. Could we request a roll call, please, Pam?
Yes, certainly. Gary Tenenbaum. Bernie Grauer.
Here.
Katie Schwer. Here. Autumn Schindler. Jen Riffle. Here. Mark Kittle.
Here.
Jackie Whitsitt.
Here. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Okay, our first item is prioritization, funding, and ballot language for land purchase and park improvements related to the Basalt River Park. Mr. Scanlon.
I'll get started. One of the issues that we've come back to several times is the acquisition of the land and trying to figure out how to do it and how to do it best. Part of it has been there's a private development piece and there's a public park piece. And what I'm going to propose tonight is that at some point it gets divided up. But Bruce and I can start working on an acquisition in which we use certificates of participation. Think of it as about 60% that would be paid for with public money being any public money that we could raise through partnerships, public money that the town would contribute, and then any, in a sense, land dedication that you might consider as a contribution that you get from that 40%. And I'm using 40% because that roughly reflects what that development parcel is as part of the whole parcel. So 60% of it is a town-owned parcel, including the polygon. If we do this, we don't have to wait for there to be an answer as to the development parcel. We just start working on the acquisition of the property. And at a number that's below what you've read about in the paper, we continue to negotiate to figure out how to get the best purchase that we can. With the hope that at the end, the amount of money that the town has to put in might represent 1/3 of the total land cost. So, work on a COP, start putting together the language necessary for the acquisition of the parcel. Do it as one parcel purchase, with the council coming back and deciding how that development parcel works.
Can you give us one little bit of COP 101?
Sure. So certificates of participation are lease financing tools that local government have available to them. In the case of this particular COP, at the end of the day, the asset is actually the land that you own. So a COP that, in a sense, is underwritten by the land. Certificate of participation is a annual appropriation. It's an annual appropriation that's called a lease payment. And you negotiate it typically with the Bank of Colorado. So these have the benefits of being tax exempt. And then they qualify, I believe, as a bank qualified investment. That's up to $10 million. So they have a couple of benefits to them. They're a little higher than a GO. So if you were to issue a GO, that's probably 1.5%. A certificate of participation is about 3%. So it's maybe twice as expensive, but at the same time, it takes the land purchase sort of away. And however we find the donations, the contributions, the grants that tie to the public portion, we just keep working on this. So reducing the amount of money that maybe the town has to pay for the park piece of the acquisition.
And what is the timing that you are proposing on the COP?
It would run at the same time that you're considering the bond ordinance for the improvements.
And how long of a term?
The COPs are annual, so 5 years, let's say, but you have to approve them annually.
Okay.
And what was the 40%?
Private development. So an example would be a COP that's made up 60-40. A year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years, just pick a point in time. There's a sale of that property to some developer, and you take that money and you basically pay off that portion of the COP related to that portion of the land.
So just to clarify again, so the 40% would be taxable, but it would all be under one purchase?
Correct.
And to clarify, approving it annually by council, by voters?
By council.
Okay.
It's part of your annual appropriation, and you have to do it inside your budget.
Okay.
So if you've been paying attention to Licking County and the construction of the new office building, for them, I think this is the route they chose, was certificates of participation for the construction of that. So it's the same theory and premise that I'm looking
way in which you meet Tabor requirements, that you cannot obligate beyond your current budget. What happens if a council doesn't agree to it in 2 or 3 years? The bank
Owns
has
the land.
collateral and they take collateral.
And that's the land.
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be sort of a parallel path. This is the part where we've seen, as a staff, the most discussion, both in emails that we've received, and then in terms of questions, both from the council and community. And it's sort of this list, and let's say this is our latest list. And this latest list, we had all these other categories that we hadn't included, if you remember, from July 12th. And so we've broken out the other categories into 2 pieces. One, we said, one you could consider for bond, one that we probably need to include as we work on these items. One of the questions that we received are like sort of the cost estimates, what underlies the cost estimates in terms of, can you prove what these various components are? So what happens is, based on the amount of square footage of soil and grass and stones for those curvilinear pieces, those are all a function of typically CAD programs and estimating quantities and amounts. The one thing that I always hesitate, because once you show this, people can then bring it up. So when you go to bid on a project, what tends to happen when you keep talking about these numbers is that sometimes these become the numbers for the bids. And it's one of the concerns that I have, but that's the only way you can talk about it, is say, this is what we estimate it to be. So these are engineered or engineering estimates as to what they think it costs in today's dollars. So what they estimate based on inflation as of today.
Given what you just said, does it make sense to get a couple of more looks at this now from different engineers' estimates or different ideas? Because people seem to think, even people who were working
Right.
on this on post, that this is way high. And if we start out with these numbers, it scares me for all the reasons that you said.
Right. Then the counter happens. So you have a bond issue and you go out and they come in higher, and now you don't have enough debt authority. So it's dang if you do, dang if you don't. And we could get some lower estimates and you could take some things out, but my fear would be you get to the ballot measure, you pass it, and now all of a sudden these numbers, the bids come in higher. And the unfortunate thing is there isn't really easy things to pluck out. I mean, if you said we're going to go all the way to like a band shell and the numbers were off, well, you would almost have to take out an element. So I mean, what are the things to weigh? As we saw with the underpass.
Okay. So, I guess I'm trying to remember what was the, oh, never mind, base level design, that's what I was looking for.
Right. So there's a pretty good description about 6 or 7 pages back with all the elements that are in those color codings. So if you go to the base level design, it shows you all of the features, amenities, improvements that are included. So if you see that for base level 2,595,552, 552, you can actually go see what all the elements are that make up that.
Is there a picture of base level that I'm not seeing?
It's this one here. I didn't include it in the packet, but this was the base level design.
Thanks, Susan. Okay, so,
And then can you please elucidate and refresh us on the bond amount for taxpayers' share that they would be considering for 2.5 million, 9 million, and $11 million?
So
That's the question that I got at the Sunday market.
Okay, so if you,
Blank.
if you just went up to, let's say, using 10 million as a placeholder, and you capped your current, extended your current mill rate, I believe it's another 6 years beyond when it expires, it can cover up to 10. So if you think about it in a 10-year horizon, just subtract a year for each million. So at year, an additional 6, you can do 10, and if you went to 5, you could do 9, an additional 4, you could do 8. So you can kind of back up from there.
And what is the average taxpayer paying for the 10 million?
It would depend on their house, and I have a,
It's like $33 per 500,000. Can you
that's,
provide-
yeah, that sounds about right. And we could do a table that shows going,
For the
going,
public, that would be very, very
Right.
helpful.
both for commercial and residential property.
Yeah, you've already done that and given
Yeah.
it to us.
Right,
Right, right,
okay.
Jen and I lost it.
yeah.
Right.
So it's about
I
sort
have
of,
it in my head, but I want to have that on paper
Yeah.
so the public can see
so it's
it.
about kind of crafting what are the elements with, I would call this as close to a phasing as we could probably give you, with the idea that road improvements, bus improvements, I mean, that's all in terms of getting the road alignments right. Then you're getting into the base improvements in the park, then you add a band shell, then a full design of the park, and then moving over to the old park fishing pier, and then the comfort stations, are they by the band shell? Where did we
No,
put
no,
those?
they're in the pavilion area.
They're in the pavilion area.
There are bathrooms also in the stage,
Okay.
in the price.
Well,
Okay.
we're gonna need bathrooms,
They're in the
Right.
stage too.
but we're gonna have to have them before that.
Sure.
Well, are they in the base level design? No.
They're not in that cost.
They could be though.
Okay, that's an important amenity.
Yeah, gotta have bathrooms.
It's that 5A, yeah.
That needs to move up the list, in my opinion.
Well, Comfort Station is the hot dog stand for $2 million?
No,
Oh, no. Oh, the band shell structure you said has bathrooms as well. Okay. All right, so where do we want to go? Okay, I'll go, I'll throw out. We've been looking at this for a little while now, and my thought is that I could very much live with the first 1, 2, 3A, 3B, so it would be transformation of two rivers, which they're saying we have to do this. Bus stop structures, which we're told they have to do. The base level design and the band shell structure, because we need to have restrooms. And I would be open to discussion of also adding the old pond fishing pier because of the accessibility issue. I feel like we need a way for everyone to be able to get near the water. But I could also consider that another phase or put that on the tab of the Conservancy.
I've always been of the opinion that that should stay separate. Just because it's really not part of this park.
I could go either way. Katie, what's your thought?
Well, I have a question. When I look at these bus stop structures, they seem very expensive, and from what I read, they seem a little elaborate, perhaps too much. And what would RAFTA be able to kick in to help us with this? Can we trim it and get RAFTA to help us?
We might be able to.
To both of those, trimming and,
Right.
Can I also just jump in and ask construction guy here? So I understand Mike's reasoning that we don't want to put numbers out there that would create a shortage at the end.
Right.
But what kind of savings, Mark, do you think that we might see through value engineering, like we did the underpass, where if in fact the bus structures didn't need to be 150,000 apiece, you know what I'm saying? To cut back on maybe cosmetics or whatever it is, do you have I mean, granted, you don't have plans in front of you, but,
I usually value engineering will save you about 10%.
all right,
So
that's good to
you're
know.
looking at a couple $100,000.
Okay. All right, that's something. So what do you want to see, Jen?
I would like to see, I personally feel unprepared in this meeting because what we were discussing was not presented ahead of time. This packet outlines prioritization funding and ballot language, and from the packet behind, there's no specified questions or what it is. And so I'll be the last one to go.
Okay, all right. Okay, so Mark, where did you say you are on this deal?
I agree with you.
Okay.
I think we need to go through at least item 3B, and then break out the pier down at Old Pond Park, or leave it in. I could go either way. That's 187,000.
Okay,
But I'm thinking when the river center goes in, there's gonna be plenty of accessible routes down to the water. And it might be beneficial to wait on that component so it can more readily blend in with what they're doing.
okay. Katie, are you able?
Well, I agree with items through 3B, knowing that the band shell will have bathrooms, and that we try to, again, reduce these bus structures and get RAFTA to help us with that. Can you hit on it, but remind me again, what is 6A and 6B?
They're on the back page.
James, can you go to the end of
This
the slideshow? Oh, I remember that. There, right there.
It's just more stuff.
Yeah,
That's the,
Katie up on the screen too.
Okay.
And those are items that are likely needed, likely not needed?
needed.
Okay, so it's really another million?
560.
Pretty close.
564.
So not the
For
6B?
both, for both.
You wanna talk a little bit more about 6B, Mike?
We did talk about this a little. Could you just hit us again with,
Yeah, so 6B is the Two Rivers Road. It's that west side where we're talking with the Roaring Fork Conservancy about their improvements. And we just put it in here in that, you know, either we spend money out of post or we roll it into the bond issue because rates are good.
Yeah, and this one actually
This
we were
is
gonna
just-
take off it different.
A financing option that we could consider.
And-
Sorry,
okay, I was just gonna say, that's 6A, but what about 6B? Or is that,
That was 6B that I
It's
just,
Oh, that
6B,
was
the other
6B.
one was at Old Pond Park. One was the Two Rivers Road, and the other
Okay,
was the
got
Old
it.
Pond, that we described in more detail when we were doing the Roaring Fork Conservancy.
Conservancy.
And we had the little map with the colors on it with responsibilities.
I've seen a lot of images in
Yeah.
my 20
But,
years
but
here.
those were the two. It's the-
Some good, some not so good.
I might have misheard what you said, but did you say GoCo?
No, I did not say
Okay.
local when I was talking
Just
here, but
hopeful.
no, what,
we think some of these improvements could be. So anything that we could get in grants, we would just apply to principal. And so we would make it look just like the issue that we have now, which is callable at any time, any amount. So if you get a grant or you receive a windfall, you just apply it to the principal.
So even if we say 4 million, we really mean 5 million because of these 6A, 6Bs?
Well, you don't have to do 6B.
You don't have to do 6B.
Okay, just
But it's
6,
a
but you
good
do have to
And-
do 6.
And I think there's things that we could pick out in 6A,
Okay,
such as what's the 1% for public art? The
Any-
bond and the.
So
those
any
sorts.
public improvement that we do, we have an ordinance that said we have an ordinance that says we set aside 1% for art related.
oh, so it's
to art.
included in the project, do we have to do it?
Right.
We have to do it.
It's an ordinance.
Passed it.
We did.
Yeah,
although it's a waiver.
yeah.
So is there anything else that could come out of these
So are
6A,
we supposed to
6Bs?
say
Just a
how
second,
far-
Bernie,
oh,
just a
I'm
second.
sorry.
Are there any other items that really could be phased, don't have to happen on phase 1?
On 6A,
Uh-huh.
signage seems high to me. $50,000?
We're hoping we can get this
Yeah.
down. But is there anything else obvious that? I don't see anything that looks like it's gonna come off of here, actually. I think we better just count on it.
Well, and I think rolling in 6B is actually a good ploy, like Mike said, financially. We can get a lower interest rate, and like, if GOCO comes through, then we can apply it to the principal.
So,
I could see to the voters putting $435,000 towards Two Rivers Road, or $176,000 to Two Rivers Road being more popular than some of the other park amenities of wrapping in some reality, or some substance, other substance, infrastructure.
yeah. So, did you land on, because, oh, yes, I have you. And okay, and Bernie, what about you?
So did I hear agreement through 6B with skinnying down the cost of the bus structures, like we might put it, for 150,000, how much, what kind of bus structures could you build us?
Give us 150,000
Yeah,
worth.
right, and let you come up with the design and the cost for it. I think it's gotta look a lot better than what's out there right now, I would hope. The other thing is everybody, and we could, maybe yes, maybe no, include that 6B, but is everybody on board with everything up to 6A? Did I hear that right?
No.
No.
We're on board with 1, 2, 3A, 3B, and 6A, which is not really optional stuff, and 6B, which might make financial sense to add in.
Well, then let me offer a different viewpoint.
Okay.
You know, what do we get with the base design? We get some small amount of irrigation, some grass growing on the lawn, which is going to be canted, going to be sloped, and we get a very little plantings, a little bit of lighting,
Yeah, let's
minimal
pop that up.
water
Thank you.
improvements, excludes the children's play area, the water feature, the event lawn terracing, the boardwalk path through the wetlands, and all architecture. I mean, to me, that's the essence of making this park active and usable, is forget about the pavilion, that's in its own world off there somewhere, but the band shell and the terracing and the water features and the kids' features, that's what people want, that's what I want, that is what, you gotta put sugar out there to get votes and people
Actually, the
willing to
band
pay.
shell is in there.
The band shell's in there.
Where is the band shell on the base? Oh, I see it, okay.
Okay, so the band
Oh,
shell.
no, you added it, because you were doing here, the base money doesn't include it, but you added it.
It doesn't include it. so-
But you added it on your list. When Jackie was summarizing it, she was including 3B.
Okay.
So, and if it wasn't included, okay, no band shell, let's just stick to what we're given here. And if I do that, what do I see? A very passive, uninteresting green swath of land. Not that much different from what's out here today. I would argue that we need to put it to a vote. Every person who I've talked to when I'm at the market, and Jen too, sees the post plan for the Polk Park and says, I really like that. Let's do something so we can use this empty land and activate it. So I would recommend highly going through the full design. And as the other things beyond that, I think you want comfort stations for sure. We have too few. As far as the fishing pier, I don't care about. The extra road in 6B, I don't care about. 6A seems to be a given if you're going to get there.
Okay, so are you ready to weigh
I
in?
am ready to weigh in. So the way that I live my life is within budget. And I first look at the amount of money that I want to work that hard to maintain. And so I'm going backwards here. Rather than walking into the restaurant and saying, I'll have an A, B, C, and a 4A, I'd like to.
With fries.
With fries and a shake. I first look into my pocket as far as how much money do I have. And that's what I'd like to back it out, to say, okay, if we have, being in the public and at the markets and talking amongst various groups, there is support for continuing what our current mills are, which is $10 million if we put that out for 6 years. Okay, so I've got $10 million in my pocket. And I'm not going to spend all that $10 million on the design. I need to have the land costs wrapped in there. So just as a rough figure, let's subtract 3 million from that 10 million, because that's the number that's been out there. That's the amount that Lowe has the option to buy it from. So that brings us down to 7 million. I see, Mike, you're starting to add up what the other counselors, and so okay, so we could get the fries and the shake. We could get everything for 7 million. Is that what the public wants? Is that, I am aligned with definitely the base level improvements and the band shell. That's definitely a given. I'd like to tease out C, full design, for 1.715 and see what the children's play area water feature, and that's kind of what my question has been to post all along is, can you tease this out and please put amounts for each of these, because 1.7 is high, or is a grand amount, but there are some quality features that I would like to tease out of there. Because I am not going to ask Jackie to order the fries so that I can eat 2 of hers. I'm going to walk up there and see if I can buy 2 fries for 20 cents, okay?
Like, I thought
So we really haven't seen that kind of a breakdown,
Right.
all that water feature stuff, to see, can you get some and not all? Is it, I'm hard pressed to think even a tiny water feature is only 500,000.
No, it's going to be very expensive, and that's some of the background that I've asked is, if you see, this is the original spring, and it doesn't include effluent, but the streets may drain into there, and so this is not safe for children to play in and get it in their mouths. Whereas the plan for this one it takes the water, I don't know if it treats it or whatnot, pipes it up here, it comes down and feeds, so that it is safe for the public to have touch with their
You know, I have to say that Bernie and Jen are making me. No, I have to say that every household in Basalt, if not beyond, got a little mailer from a group that had a picture of a park that looked like the full blast park. And I think it's really difficult as a voter, as a member of the community with kids or whatever, to imagine just a grass. So I guess I'm sort of coming around to Bernie and Jen's thinking, because this is a sales pitch. It's gonna be a sales pitch. I mean, and so the people in this valley and in the mid-valley basically buy what they want. And if you say, I want $6 million for open space out there in the Tules, they will tell you yes a lot of the time, which is always shocking to me. Or do you want to put a whole bunch more money into your school because you want to have the best school anywhere? And they say yes, when people all over the state say no, over and over again. So, I would love to pay half price, but I want this to be built. I want it to be built, and I think that there has to be somewhat of a big wave of support for it to pass. Yeah, Jen?
Another question that I have is, what is the timing along the lines of, once the bond is approved, at what period of time will base level be done? And at what period of time will an amended full park improvements be done?
So we had Jim put together a calendar on July 12th. I think that's what Susan's bringing up.
Okay.
So you-
Right, and,
with this would be-
and it, that plays into if we're approving $7 million for 10-year plan, or is this done in 2 years?
So, yeah, Bernie?
I'd like to request that just like you gave us all these good numbers on our different choices, that when you hear what more and in detail we want, that you go to your property tax table and give us a cost for $500,000 house.
Yes.
So if we take Mark's 10% for value engineering, and let's just say go to this chart, all the way to the bottom, the 7-1, and you take out 10%, that's 6,391. Round it for issuance cost to 6.5. It would be approximately a $6.5 million bond issue, using this COP approach over
For
here.
the land.
Right, and I think what Jen did is the way to approach it, kind of subtract that 3 million from a 10 number, so that you have a funding source if you need to, and it doesn't work out the way you think, that there's actually money available to help handle that.
So go for 9.5, is that what you're saying?
No, go for 6.5
Okay.
and somewhere around a $3 million COP, just for rounding purposes.
Okay.
So would that be a 6-year extension then on the, okay.
So
Edie?
that's, to get 6.5 million is 6 years, extending existing bonds, no tax increase, just 6 more years of paying what we
Right.
all pay now.
Correct.
Yeah, Bernie?
And in the ballot item, we would, of course, disclose what the additional carry charge of extending that
Correct.
6 more years would be to the public.
Right. Because you have to show the total principal and interest over the life of the issue.
Yeah,
So you have to show all of your interest
sure.
costs.
Good.
And the interest you were talking about, or Bruce was talking about, was very small, if I remember.
Yeah.
1.5?
Right, it's the lowest in 68 years.
Wow.
Well,
Okay. Yeah,
you brought me over to their side now too, so,
the boat's starting to tip.
yeah, it's tipping. I want some fries.
What about you, Katie? Are you on the other side of the boat?
No, I want this, but it's
Scary,
big number.
yeah.
It's a big number.
The problem is the number that's less than this is only $2 million less. I know we're talking about it like it's a order of fries, but I mean, the truth is it's a lot, even if you get the really basic one. It's really still a lot.
Right.
And I just think people have higher expectations. So, while we're working on Katie here, we talked about ballot language. Do you have something? I didn't see it in here, but.
No, it will look just like what you're crafting now, because it's all boilerplate. So it will be $6.5 million. for improvements to the Basalt River Park, giving it a name. Those improvements being engineering, design, construction, acquisition, all the terms that you would typically see in building and buying a park.
Okay, one thing is, did we decide it was Basalt River Park? Okay, I mean,
We
I've
just
heard-
haven't been calling
I
it.
have heard legacy thrown around
Right.
out there, and it is truly. So, what is our deadline again to pull the trigger on submitting ballot language?
Start with an ordinance next Tuesday, and then in another 2 weeks, public hearing and a second reading, and the language has to be there by September 9th.
So what has to happen by this coming Tuesday? Pretty much ballot language
Right.
and a decision about this, which it sounds like we're pretty close.
It's the dollar amount that you have to put in, because that's where you start.
Okay, the dollar
calculations.
amount, okay. And could you, because we had talked about maybe getting some kind of, either some alternative ballot language or draft ballot language tonight.
Right.
Or maybe we didn't, maybe it was Tuesday. But if you have something that you could just shoot us all to review and think about, so that when we
Yeah.
show up on Tuesday.
And if you remember from the last one, you have to write the ballot language in compliance with Tabor, so it sounds very draconian.
Right. That's correct.
So
Okay.
you can't really wordsmith it too much. It's the
Can,
form that you have to use.
Yeah, Jen?
for the public, may I please request that, that you write a, non-tabered version that summarizes it in, common English?
Good,
Okay.
good.
Yes.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Okay, anybody else have
Translate.
any more information or questions that we need answered by the time we come back here on Tuesday?
For
a-
planning purposes,
A
I'd like.
table for property taxes?
Yes, a table for property taxes and as well, a nuanced, basalt, the full, full design 3C. If we can get some broken down
Cost.
costs per line item.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
And-
including the terraced seating.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just-
and which ones, and within that, it's okay if it doesn't stay in the same format, which ones, go together well? Such as, I would imagine if you're going to do the water line improvements, then you're going to have the children's water park. There's some givens that go together.
That design people would be able to immediately,
Yes,
Figure out.
that the layperson would not know that they're connected.
So the preliminary schedule, and then if you remember in Bruce's presentation, given the amount and size of the improvements, we also adjusted the park's open space and trails sales tax from 10% for operation and maintenance to 25%. So we actually reduced the amount of post money so that we were starting to create more maintenance dollars to maintain this park. So that would be language we would put in and vote on at the same time.
good.
So not only are you funding it, but you're also changing your funding sources so that you can maintain it over time.
Right.
And that has been a persistent question and criticism. How are you going to pay for maintaining the park, and where is it coming from? And this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that still one ballot question, or is it two separate
Two
questions?
separate.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, as well, the elephant in the room, the development parcel. If the option to buy is out there and, the entire 2.3 acres is purchased, including the development parcel, the costs attached to improving it to basic levels of having grass on it so that it is not a rectangle delineation
Weeds.
of weeds different. So we need that cost as
That's a
well.
really good point, too.
Okay,
Yep. In case nothing is built for a couple of years, we cannot have it looking like,
right. And this is going to start, we're maybe not gonna get the fries, but we need to have this entire picture.
yeah. What else is popping up, or are we getting there?
We're getting there.
Anything else that Susan or Mike has that we're missing?
And on the 25%, if you recall how we wrote the language, it was up to 25%, and it was council discretion
Okay,
as to whether you would need it in a given year, but it kept flexibility.
okay.
Can you give us an updated timeline, as far as, we are meeting on August 9th, and we're going to have some ballot language. We're gonna come back with various costs, and then looking at Tuesday, August 16th, what would possibly be on the agenda for that date?
If on August 9th, we have introduced an ordinance with a public hearing, that will have set the amount, the interest rate in a sense, as well as the COP language and O&M 25% language. So there's not a necessity for a meeting on the 16th if on the 9th you have agreement with the ordinance that's presented.
That's incentive.
And if there's not agreement, then what will occur on the 16th?
Whatever they couldn't solve on the 9th, I'm gonna guess gets passed to the 16th so that you can stay on the ballot in November.
Okay. And I'd like everyone to know that I have the option to be here on the 16th if I drive through the night, or I may not be here on the 16th,
Okay.
so.
Right. I think everybody else should be back around then. Okay,
So the phasing from DHM, bond election on the 8th, the 15th, they would start working on construction documents. March 17th, plans for Two Rivers Road and civil infrastructure and grading for the park completed. Construction will begin in spring of 2017. Construction completed by the summer, fall of 2018. So a one-year build-out
Okay,
based on these plans.
on either one,
Yes.
okay, wow,
wow, it's fast.
yes.
Okay, anybody else going?
And the
Okay.
reason it's fast, by the way, it's a blank slate.
Yes, Jen?
Right, and then remind, for when is the public going to be, allowed, or when will there be public comment on?
I would- Starting on the 9th, and then I would do public information on the following week. So that Thursday and Saturday of the following week.
Okay.
Then a meeting on the 23rd. And Judy and I did a lot of Fix the Fork for about 2 months up until the election, where we just had, I think it was Wednesdays at Town Hall, where people could just show up and ask us questions. We can't promote the bond issue, but we can answer questions
Right.
related to it. And a lot of it was just answering questions. So sort of that same type of environment where you can come and ask any question
Yeah.
on any topic related to the bond issue.
And let's,
Okay.
let's get that going, yeah.
Would be good. Okay, it looks like we also have an executive session on this. If you're finished, Mike, with your information. Oh, Bernie, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I could interrupt you a second.
For asking.
I think since we have a member of council, and we're in a council session, and we were in the finance committee, I'd like to briefly read through things I would like council. Okay, first of all, report to the entire council. The finance committee this evening, at the previous meeting, voted unanimously to recommend the council that it terminate the pre-development agreement with TCAW as of its August 9th meeting. The Finance Committee requests town staff to prepare a council resolution preparing the pre-development agreement with TCAW as per section 4.J for the August 9th agenda. The Finance Committee requests of the council that it direct staff to make no reimbursements of cost expenses until August 9th, and that no new expenditures be made by the town on their behalf and place on hold any contracts. That's what the call has to do. No reimbursements, no new expenditures, and for them to place on hold any contracts. That would be direction from the council to the call. Finance Committee requests that the council direct staff to place on hold any city contracts or expenses relating to call until August 9th. The Finance Committee requests that the council directs the town attorney to advise at an executive session August 9th of any legal ramifications of the termination, and I want to know if council supports these recommendations.
You know, I think that everybody but Mark was here, Gary wasn't here, Auden wasn't here to actually have listened or participated in the conversation about this whole Takah thing. So what I would like to ask is that on the 9th, when we have an executive session, that we also have information in the packet so that, like Jen always says, she was privy to what all happened, but if you weren't, you wouldn't be voting on this. So if that's possible, do you have time to put something together for the packet so that there can be a vote of the full council?
Well, I think Mike and I are gonna work on that, yes,
Okay, all right,
definitely.
okay.
We agreed to do that.
Okay.
But
that's-
does the council agree with these requests? And the official, no. Don't have to deal with it. We did it in finance committee.
Deal with that on the night.
Yeah. we
Got it,
just-
okay?
Yeah, so,
And
Thanks, Bernie.
so here's some good news. If you agree with sort of the approach we're taking on the certificates of participation, Tom and I can start working on a contract. Then we come back on the 9th with the contract, the parameters. We use that, the whole tamale, less 10% for value engineering, an addition of 25% to parks, open space, and trails for O&M, maintenance of the park, and those are the items that we bring back. So the reason that we had the executive session was for the acquisition of land in terms of kind of laying out what we thought was the financing of it, but Tom and I can work on that and bring it back to where we're sort of at the end.
are you thinking we don't need an executive session? Oh,
Correct.
good.
That's good.
Yes, Jen?
And yes, just to follow up, that was the direction from the last where we requested framework, and so,
Yeah.
yes, please continue with that. There is one direction piece that has not been and may need to be discussed in executive.
Oh, the private parcel?
Correct.
Yeah, and we can do that in the executive session.
Great.
Okay, so, I guess I would ask for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of, I guess it's the first one, the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, sale of property interest in accordance with CRS 246402. So it's regarding real estate. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're in executive session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.